On this episode, we discuss the He-Man spinoff coming to Netflix, Ikea expanding their smart home division, Nintendo Switch getting some indie games, and Chris makes me very happy with some Canadian Disney Plus news. We're also pleased to have the fantastic Cody Gough be a guest this week, which means I'll pull out a secret surprise segment for him and Chris. This and more in this week's show.
I'm Chris from Play Comics, a show where we look at video games based on comic properties and how well they stick to that source material, a part of the GonnaGeek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other astonishingly geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
This is the official GonnaGeek.com show. Here, we're a bunch of geeks talking about geeky things. Each week, we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven.
But what if I'm in the mood for a T-Swift story?
Chris.
I've heard the X is going to give it to you.
And SP.
That's how we roll on Gonna Geek on Monday night. We get crazy!
GonnaGeek Productions presents the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Welcome to a all podcast award winning episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I am award winning Steven Jondra, and I'm pleased to say that my award winning co-host Chris Farrell is here this week as well.
Yes, I do in fact have a word.
You do have a word, yes. And also, I'm pleased to say that allegedly award winning Cody Gough is joining us here this week.
Thank you for having me. I am the award-winning Cody Gough, and I am honored to be on the 300th episode of the GonnaGeek.com podcast. You invited me for this big milestone episode. I could not be more excited.
Steven, did you tell him it was 300?
Yeah, it's $299. Yeah. It's $299. We knew that it would be too mind-blowing to have you on number 300. I didn't want you on here. But we also, I mean, what? What?
Sorry, $299?
Yeah, $299.
You're just talking about, like, that's like a price joke, right? Like when you buy something for like $295.
You know what it is? I'm underbidding myself for next week. You know, like they do in The Price is Right, where they do the $1 bid. That's what I'm doing here. Is I'm underbidding the 300.
Cool. All right. Well, anyway, thank you again for having me for episode 300, which this episode definitely is.
Well, it
totally is.
Pleased to have you. And as I mentioned, we're all podcast award winners, and I have been storing for the last couple of years Chris Farrell and my podcast awards that we won previously on this very show, geeks.link/podcast awards, I think it is, or geeks.link/awards. And Cody,
geeks.link/awards.
Awards, yeah. And so for the audio listeners, I've just placed our awards that Chris Farrell and I won on the official GonnaGeek.com show podcast awards for the GonnaGeek.com show on my backdrop, and I am waiting for Cody Gough now to put his podcast award on his frame. Go ahead, Cody. When you'd like, you can go ahead and hold up that podcast award that you won.
You know, if I had ample time to prepare for this show, I would have retrieved it from the living room, because I may or may not have a physical trophy in the living room. However, my wife's not home to get it for me, and I'm doing a podcast now, so my hands are tied.
You know, we don't believe it. You don't have it. You're not showing it. It's all alleged at this point. We're showing what we won. We can clearly show it.
I can show you some other stuff, but I don't think our audience is ready for that.
Well, it's been a great show, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to sign off. Steven, hit the credits.
For those of you who aren't following this inside joke at all, Cody Gough, he, for his full-time job, does something called Curiosity Daily, which is a legitimate podcast, award-winning podcast. And Cody, I'm going to turn it over to you for a second to go ahead and plug and promote all of that.
Oh, thanks, Steven. Look, this is a professional podcast too. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on it. I love the GonnaGeek.com podcast, like a lot. But Curiosity Daily is a daily science research-based podcast where we cover 2 to 3, usually 3 stories a day on the latest science research, whether it's something we discovered in space, or it's new psychology research, or it's just a cool place around the planet, like an island off the coast of Brazil that has 1 snake for every square meter on average. stuff like that. Just stuff to kind of inspire your curiosity so that every day, in 10 minutes or less, you can learn a couple new things and become a more interesting person and learn more about the world around you. That's Curiosity Daily.
And you also co-host that with the other half of the Curiosity Daily, Ashley Hamer. Is that correct?
Yes, Ashley Hamer, the managing editor of the popular science website, curiosity.com. She's awesome. One of my favorite coworkers I've ever had. And she's just like super awesome. Really great to work with. Really funny on the podcast. Yeah, we have a good time. It's a really good time. Maybe someday I'll introduce you if you're lucky. I am the gatekeeper of my cooler co-host.
I'm just going to go ahead and say right now that I know for a fact that she came to my fair province, and I am assuming it is because of me. So there you go.
That's right. I do remember that. Yeah, her little Vancouver trip. That was a good. Yeah, she loved it. She had a great time.
All kidding aside, yes, I am gently ribbing Cody. The two of them are fantastic together. It's really worth checking out. And Cody, I think you have done a magnificent job over there. It is one of my favorite episodes or shows that I listen to every week.
Right back at you, baby.
It's not true at all.
It's a lot. No, it's a lot of like really hard work. It is so much work. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. But I'm glad that some people seem to be enjoying it. It's got 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, so that's something, right?
That's awesome. I actually tend to binge listen to it, and one of the places that I do is while I'm mowing my lawn. So when winter rolls around, it's always a little sad because when I'm mowing my lawn, I'm just sitting there and I feel like I can focus more than in the car or whatever when I'm actually paying attention to the road. So I think there's a lot of really good education and a lot of good Easter eggs and a lot of good nuggets all packed into your show. So check it out if you haven't. It's curiositydaily.com. But let's go ahead and talk about this show while we do some news. Let's kick it off with the wonderful Chris Farrell's first news point here. And Chris, you're going to tell us all about how there is a Netflix spin-off series that they are allegedly doing.
That's right. It has in fact been confirmed, but I'm a child of the 80s and the 90s. I grew up with certain cartoon properties that were basically glorified commercials to make me want to go and buy toys. One of the biggest examples of that was He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which was a cartoon that ran in the 80s. And hey, we're all about the same age. We probably all watched it at one point in time, and probably all of us wanted He-Man toys at one point in time. So it means the show did its job. Well, just recently, like within the past couple of years, Netflix has brought She-Ra back as an animated series, and it kind of seemed natural that He-Man might eventually find a treatment that would come to the streaming platform. And now He-Man is returning this weekend at PowerCon. Kevin Smith, you know, that guy, Silent Bob, we would call him from time to time, announced that he'll be executive producing a new limited series called Masters of the Universe Revelation. It's dubbed an anime series for some reason, but Kevin Smith described it as focusing on the unresolved storylines of the 80s originals, picking right up where the series left off. Netflix has also confirmed this news, issuing a press release. The thing I have to remember is, how the hell did He-Man leave off in the 80s? Because I honestly don't remember, because remember, these are glorified toy commercials back when we were children. So I have no idea what they're going to do with a new He-Man TV series, but I kind of want to see this 8-part miniseries when it comes to Netflix just to cash in on my nostalgia, I guess. I don't know. Is this like the ultimate nostalgia grab that's going to amount to nothing? I don't know. I just want to see it.
I have to say that as somebody who acknowledges that things have changed since the 80s and sometimes we have to rephrase things, I have never been described as manly, so I take offense to the name He-Man. So I think that we need to get more with the times and change it.
Because the name of He-Man is the only problem of misogyny and sexism in the He-Man cartoon. That's the only issue we have.
Well, now wait, is Skeletor still going to be the villain, or will there be a female villain as there is now a female lead?
Well, as far as I know, since this is a continuation of the 80s cartoon series, we should still see Prince Adam / He-Man and Skeletor and all the characters we've met before. As I grew up learning, my father used to mess with me because he knew it would get my goat when I was a child. It was the kind and benevolent Skeletor, and the villain was He-Man. And 4 or 5-year-old Chris was very upset by this. And to this day, he can look at me and kind of quirk an eyebrow and go, the kind and benevolent Skeletor. And I look at him like, damn it, he's not kind, he's the villain. And it still works. It still works. Maybe that's part of the reason I want to see this, is just there can be some more Skeletor jokes.
At least we all know how to push Chris's buttons now. That's something that we've all learned from this news point today.
You just wish you were as cool as Skeletor, Steven.
I do. I do wish that I was as cool as Skeletor. But when I'm feeling down, I just look at my backdrop and I see my podcast awards and I just cuddle it. So
That's sweet.
Brings me
That's
back
sweet.
up.
I don't think it's a bad idea.
Don't make me walk in my living room and grab a trophy.
It's a
I'm
legend.
sure there's one in there.
Okay, so Cody Gough. On the show, all three of us are about the same age-ish, more or less, within 5 years, I think. I think there's something like that. You were a He-Man fan, weren't you?
You know, I feel like it was like a year or two before, not like my time, because my older brothers both had a ton of He-Man action figures, and I played with those all the time, but I more grew up on, I don't know, Star Trek The Next Generation, which I was watching in like first grade pretty obsessively, and some other nerdy shows. My cartoons were, my Saturday morning cartoon lineup was more like DuckTales, Power Rangers, which is not a cartoon, but you know, the X-Men animated series. For He-Man Transformers, I feel like they were like 2 or 3 years before, like I did just barely escaped my grasp, but all I had are the toys, Micro Machines, Transformers, all that stuff. I can appreciate Skeletor though.
Sorry, it was super big in the early 80s, and then it was on in syndication kind of after that. But when they weren't selling toys anymore, it kind of came less aired. So maybe I'm just remembering seeing a bunch of it in syndication, stuff like that, because I do believe most of it aired before I was born.
You know, in our chat at geeks.live, because if you didn't know, we do record this live on Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern. We have the wonderful Suncast, past guest of the show. He is saying that he hopes that they have these statements, the morality statements at the end. And that is a staple of He-Man. They were always there. So,
and the G.I. Joe cartoon too.
G.I. Joe, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
We need to bring back the redubs of the G.I. Joe cartoon. I'm a computer.
Yes.
Stop all the downloading. This has been Internet Memes from the early 2000s, brought to you in 2019 on the GonnaGeek Show.
Yep.
All right. Well, on that note, let's move on to the next news point, because there's no topping that. Let's talk a little bit about Ikea. This is actually something that Chris Farrell has brought up a couple of times in the past on this show. And I saw an article today, and I thought it was definitely worth talking about. And it's the fact that it looks like Ikea is going to ramp up their smart home product line. If you're not familiar with this, in the past, Ikea has dabbled in some different smart products. They're generally fairly inexpensive. The platform they run on is questionable, but they have it. And some of the ones that have been really interesting to us are things like the smart home blinds, where they're looking to make affordable blinds that are smart. And it looks like Ikea is going to try to double down on it, as they are saying that they are going to essentially create a dedicated smart home section within the Ikea brand. The quote from one of the many, many people that were quoted with the release of this, seriously, there was a ton of people quoted on this, was, "At Ikea, we want to continue to offer products for a better life at home for the many people going forward. In order to do so, we need to explore products and solutions beyond conventional home furnishings." That was Bjorn Block. And then there was also another person that said, "We have decided to invest significantly in home smart across Ikea to fast forward the development. This is the biggest new business we are establishing since the introduction of children's Ikea." And that was by Peter van der Poel, I believe it was. So this is interesting because of the fact that they are elevating their goal to get into smart home stuff. And I thought that quote about being the biggest thing since children's Ikea was pretty telling, because when children's Ikea came along and that whole section sort of was released, there was a lot of people who started to buy children's furnishings and other things there at Ikea because it was obviously affordable and what we know from Ikea. And now they're comparing the two. Where are we going to see with home? Are we going to go in one day and, where you go into Ikea now, you got this big children's section. Are you going to have a big smart home section? Is that what the future of Ikea is?
I don't know. The nearest Ikea is like an hour and a half away from my house.
You know what? There's not even one where I live either. It's a while away, but I'm excited. I'm excited for this because occasionally I do make the trip to Ikea. Cody, you probably have a couple Ikeas in Chicago.
There's one in the suburbs that I've been to. I'm not a big IKEA shopper, though. Not that it's not good quality, but I don't know. I tend to pick up furniture in alleys.
That's how he got that lovely couch he currently has.
I mean, kind of actually, when you live in a major city, if you're looking for a new bookcase, you're kind of crazy if you pay for one. Like, there's no reason.
You're not wrong.
We had like a 7-foot tall bookcase. I'm not even kidding, that we like could not get rid of. We posted on Craigslist and Nextdoor and offered it to a few friends who were literally moving into new places and are looking for furniture. We couldn't get rid of it. So I was like, all right, let's bring it to the alley. We brought it to the alley, then went out to dinner and came back and it was gone. And it wasn't the trash people that picked it. Like, that's what living in a major city is. I'm here in Chicago and like, that's just what happens. So now that said, you don't really find a lot of smart speakers in the alley, I don't think. So it's cool. Anytime you make something more accessible, like that's a cool thing. So, and I've heard that actually the food at Ikea is really good too. Apparently they have restaurants in some of them. Have you had that?
It's unbelievably cheap, anything they sell, and it's not terrible. You know that you're eating like really questionable products, but allegedly.
What a ringing endorsement from Stephen John Drew, president of the GonnaGeek Network. It's not terrible, but you don't know what's in the meat. They're going to put that right on the Ikea homepage, I'm sure, Stephen.
You know what? They can go ahead and sign me. My fee will be very minimal.
It'll just be a few smart speakers.
What you said about, it's cheap, you don't know what's in it, that's never stopped me from eating at Taco Bell.
Oh, Taco Bell.
Okay, so Cody, is this why you don't have your podcast award? Because you accidentally threw it out with that couch?
It might be just because it's under a bunch of Taco Bell wrappers. I'm not going to lie, now I really want some Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Well, they do deliver in some cities, so you could have some delivered and just take a 5-minute break to go to the door and pick up your Taco Bell.
For my birthday, I had some delivered.
Yes.
I actually tried Taco Bell delivery, and there was a reason. There was some kind of promo code on whatever new app was offering it.
DoorDash, I think.
It might have been DoorDash, and it was some promo code for like $20 off or some insane amount off. But with the taxes, fees, delivery charge, and everything else, it ended up being like $50.
How much Taco Bell is $50?
No, I think it was literally $25 off, and we ordered, but it had to be like I don't remember, but like seriously, after the discount, it should have been about half off, and it ended up only getting rid of the extra fees. It was absurd. I had some company that day, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to order tacos. It's my birthday. What else is there to look forward to in life?
I feel like when you're an 85-year-old man, you're going to look back on questionable decisions in your life, and that's going to be very low on them. I think there's going to be a lot of worse decisions you're going to have made.
I feel okay about that one. I'm not going to lie. Chris, sounds like you're a Taco Bell guy too.
I am on occasion, but it's really terrible for me, despite how much I might like it. But I do enjoy me a good taco or a quesadilla from time to time from Taco Bell.
Double-decker Taco Supreme. It's the king of Mexican food.
They've got the Doritos Locos Taco and Taco Bell. Please sponsor us. Reach out to @TheChrisFarrell on Twitter and we'll plug you more. Come on, you can do it.
Moving on to our next news point here, let's talk a little Nintendo Switch. Cody Gough, you have a bit of experience talking games. I know that this is something that you once had a great ambition to have a podcast about gaming. Never happened. Or wait, did it happen? Oh, yes, that's right. You ran the Game Life Balance US podcast solidly for a while. And then before that, you solidly ran the Unqualified Gamers podcast. So you got a little history talking about games, and you had a gaming news point today, right?
Yeah, why not? Figured we should talk a little gaming news for a couple different reasons, but this may apply to you even if you're not a gamer. My first podcast that I ever did was Unqualified Gamers, which was part of the GonnaGeek Network. Now we're Game Life Balance, US. Our Australian sister show is better than we are. I'll just leave it at that. My co-host has been a little bit AWOL for the last year, so we're not very active, but occasionally we'll pop out an episode. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. What is here and there at the same time is that the Nintendo Switch just announced, well, a bunch of games have just been announced for the Nintendo Switch from the indie gaming realm. And some of these games are Steam sweethearts of mine and games that you may have heard us talk about on Game Life Balance. One of them being Risk of Rain 2, which is coming out next month, apparently, for the Nintendo Switch. So Risk of Rain is a side-scrolling platformer roguelike that John and I, my co-host, both insisted was the game of the year for us a few years ago. It's super fun. Risk of Rain 2 took it from a side-scrolling platformer roguelike to a first-person shooter roguelike. And at first you might think, okay, why are they making it a first-person shooter? And my first reaction to that was, it's just going to be really bad. But if you think back, Nintendo already did this with Metroid. I mean, Super Metroid, one of the greatest games literally ever made. I actually argued on an episode of my show, it may be a perfect game. Then they made Metroid Prime, and you're like, why are you going to make this Metroid Prime first-person shooter? And Metroid Prime, that whole trilogy was super, super popular. So I actually have the early access Steam version of Risk of Rain 2, and I've played it a bunch, and sure enough, it's really good. It feels exactly like the original Risk of Rain, except now instead of a 2D side-scroller, now it's a first-person shooter, roguelike. The multiplayer is really, really fun. And then it's just one of many games hitting the Nintendo Switch next month, or, well, in the near future. Torchlight 2 is another game hitting next month, which I don't have as much experience with. But then later this fall, a couple other games. One's called Blasphemous. Another is called Ori and the Blind Forest. This is the definitive edition. A lot of you may have heard of Ori and the Blind Forest. We haven't talked much about it on Game Life Balance, but I think John played it, and I hear a lot of buzz about it, and I'm pretty sure I own it. Just like, you know, one of those Steam games you just get and then you never play because that's just how Steam works, apparently. Yeah. Anyway, that whole thing is coming out. And then in October, there's going to be Tryon 4 and Dungeon Defenders Awakened. Dungeon Defenders, really fun multiplayer game that a lot of my friends are really into that I've played a bit of. Dungeon Defenders Awakened is coming in February, not October. So that's just like a slate of new games coming out for Nintendo Switch. And in addition to that, Chris Farrell, tipped me off to a piece of breaking news literally 18 minutes before we started recording.
What?
And that is that, I know, so thank you, Chris, for bringing this to my attention. But after a lot of buzz for several months, they have finally announced a release date for Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, one of the greats of the Final Fantasy series. And that's going to be on Switch. Yeah, right? It's going to be on Switch, Xbox One, PlayStation 4. Like, it's going to be on all the next-gen platforms. Now, from what I've seen so far, it's going to be available September 3rd for PS4. On PSN, you can already pre-order that. I don't know 100% if the release date is the same for every single platform.
It looked like it was with some brief Googling.
Okay, yeah, it does appear that it is, but let's say very early September. Yeah, September 3rd, just in time for Memorial Day to be over, and you're back at work, and now the game comes out.
Now I'm sad inside.
Yeah, but, you know, in case you haven't been following it, they've been posting all these remastered, updated screenshots of the game for a long time. It looks really good. They're going to have features like a battle assist that basically makes like a super easy mode where your characters are really overpowered. You can turn on and off battle encounters. You can turn on a speed boost to play scenes at 3 times speed. And they've kind of tweaked the draw system. And I believe, I haven't played the Steam release, but I've heard that you can kind of shortcut past the draw system in at least the PC version of the game. So let me talk about the draw system. The draw system is the most controversial part of Final Fantasy VIII, I think, and that's why it's kind of a love-hate game for Final Fantasy fans. The draw system is the magic system in the game, but every magic system in every Final Fantasy game is different. In this system, you literally like steal spells from monsters to stock up spells. So it's not like you learn fire and you can cast fire. You have to like collect a bunch of charges of fire from enemies so that you can cast fire, let's say 20 times, and then you junction that to your stats. That draw step adds a lot of bureaucracy to the game.
And grinding.
Yeah, exactly. It's the grinding. It adds an excessive amount of grinding, and I believe that they've streamlined that in future versions of the game. I know the Steam game has a way around it. I don't remember if it's like you just enter how many copies of a spell you want or what it was, but there's a way they've really streamlined that, and I believe that's going to be the same, hopefully, for the remastered release. But even without that, you know, I replayed through Final Fantasy VIII a few years ago. You know, I survived the draw system, even though it's, you know, the 2010s. So I think it's doable. But yeah, big exciting news. Final Fantasy VIII. Chris, you're a big fan. I didn't realize that.
I'll say something scandalous here. Final Fantasy VIII is one of my favorite Final Fantasies of all time. And people give me so much crap for that. They're like, oh, Final Fantasy VII is so much better. I'm like, but I like 8 more. 7's a fun game. I just like 8 more. I'm a pariah in the gaming world.
I've noticed a weird thing with Final Fantasy games, and I feel like people are very love-hate with a lot of them. And my co-host on Game Life Balance, John Martin, he and I tend to be total opposites. So he loved Final Fantasy 12, and I thought the game was an atrocity. I just thought it was miserable. Chris, I'm like you. I liked 8 quite a lot. He thinks it's like unplayable. He's obsessed with 9. I believe 9 is his favorite game. 5 or 9 are his favorite game. And I liked 9, and I thought 5 was okay, even though it was way too hard. So yeah, we're just kind of back and forth.
4 is where it's at, if I remember right. I can't remember which one it was, though, but there's one that they re-released in the early 2000s, and I played it on my Game Boy all throughout college, literally in the middle of classes. And at one point in time, I was beating the game, and they let us go early, and I just sat in the back of the classroom and watched the end-game cutscene because I wanted to beat the damn game. So yeah, oops, I'm addicted to games. A little less so now because I'm grown up and can't play as much as I want. But yeah, Final Fantasy, they're great games, and you can easily put 40 hours into the Final Fantasy 7s and 8s and 9s, stuff like that. Easily 40 hours.
Yeah. One quick note on it, you know, regarding being an adult. I mean, a Nintendo Switch really is very nice for being portable and handheld. And if you ever travel for work or anything, it is the perfect airplane console because you don't have to power it down or, you know, you just put it in airplane mode, but you can leave it on while you're taking off and stuff. And also, now might be the time to get it because I didn't even know about this. I'm not sure if you guys reported on this on a previous episode, but evidently there's going to be a 10% tax on video game consoles and some other consumer electronics. Potentially. Yes. Yeah, that was originally scheduled for now-ish here in the US, you know, thanks to whoever's in power right now. And that apparently has been delayed to December 15th, I guess, to help out bolster the holiday shopping season. But a 10% tax on a video game console, you're talking like 25, 30, 40 bucks in some cases. So, you know, keep an eye on that news. And now might be the best time to get a console.
Or come up to Canada and spend your hard-earned dollars to support our economy.
One other thing to keep in mind that's out there if you're looking at the Switch now is they just released a hardware revision of the Gen 1 Switch. So it's like Gen 1.5, for lack of a better term, but it has a more powerful and more battery efficient processor in it, which doesn't give you any graphical gains or anything like that. But what it does is, since it's more power efficient, the battery lasts longer. So the great way to compare battery length is you play Zelda on both the original one and the new one that's put out. Original gives you about 2.5 hours of life before it dies. The new one gives you about 5.5 hours of battery life. So if you're someone who plays a lot in undocked mode, you may want to consider the new revision of Switch hardware.
I have a question for you guys because I know nothing about any of the games that you guys all just talked about because I wasn't into any of them. Where do all of these games rate compared to Castlevania? I'd like to know that.
Which Castlevania?
All of them. I know that that's a favorite of yours, Cody Gough.
Well, I mean, Castlevania Symphony of the Night is one of the greatest games of all time. Agreed, Chris?
Oh, it's so good. I've played it on multiple systems now.
I just wish that you had ever talked about Castlevania on Game Life Balance US or Unqualified Gamers, because I never remember you ever talking about it.
It's almost like when there were mini consoles that came out, they should have reviewed a Castlevania game around that.
I know,
time.
it's weird. It's weird.
Oh my God. Super Castlevania 4 is so bad. And why did you remind me of that?
All right. Well, then, moving on to the extra news section here. Before we get to the next segment, I just want to quickly touch on something that is super exciting, actually, as a Canadian. And I'm legitimately excited about this. I'm not being sarcastic. And Chris actually linked this to me today. And I am going to actually turn it over to Chris Farrell because he made me excited. And so I want to let him make other Canadians excited.
That's right. So they are doing a lot of information rather is coming about the new Disney Plus service at D23. It's the Disney specific convention. And some of what is coming out is release dates and prices for the Disney Plus service. We already knew when it comes out in the United States, it would be $7.99 a month. However, we hadn't heard anything much about their international distribution plans. Well, they did announce that the day Disney Plus launches in the United States, it will also be launching in Canada for $8.99 Canadian a month or $89.99 a year. That's pretty much comparable to what the price is in the United States, where it's $7.99 US a month or I think $70 a year because they give you a discount if you buy a year up front. Pretty nice news for Steven. They've also announced a bunch of stuff coming to the Disney Plus service, like the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show that sort of leaked out the other day. The Mandalorian show, all of the Marvel shows. There's a lot of content coming. And since Disney owns all the rights for it, international distribution, a bit less of a problem. So they're pretty easily able to say, hey, we're launching Disney Plus in like 6 or 8 different countries on day one.
Yeah, this is unbelievable to me because the rumor that we always heard here, and I think that somebody might have said that from Disney originally, was that the Canadian version would not be until 2020. And so it's very exciting to me to have this come out at the same time and for a pretty reasonable price. You said it was $7.99 US. I thought it was $6.99 US.
Maybe it's $6.99. It could all be blurring together for me because I've been reading so much news about it.
In any case, if you do the dollar conversion right now, $7 US works out to be about $9.50 Canadian. So $8.99 is right in there, right bang in that sort of area. And a lot of times in Canada, we do end up paying quite a bit more because of the dollar swaying. A lot of times retailers will charge higher because they don't want to be in a position where all of a sudden they can't afford the service or whatever, because of the fact that our dollar suddenly tanks. So this is right in there. And the only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about here is that the Canadian streaming market is not where it is of the US right now. And I'm really hoping that Disney has properly pulled back their rights to be able to give us a comparable service. Because if they have optioned their rights to other organizations and other, media providers and whatnot, there could be a challenge there. And the thing that keeps coming to my mind was a couple of years ago when we made a little joke on here about the news that Star Wars The Force Awakens was coming to Netflix Canada, but not to the States at the time. And so to me, that tells me that there was some form of difference with the streaming rights in Canada for their Star Wars property than there was with the States. And have they resolved that since that time? Because if those rights still exist, I could end up being given something that is not comparable to the US.
My understanding, based off how they've handled things in the US, is they have that deal with Netflix right now. That deal expires at the beginning of 2020. So my assumption is the reason they're launching Disney Plus at the end of the year, pretty much to hook you on their original content, which they own all of the rights to all of the back catalog stuff they've purchased from Fox. And then they are gradually filling in like the back catalog of all of the Marvel movies and stuff like that as deals run out with Netflix and things like that. So I think we're all in about the same boat there. But all of their original content, which is arguably why you're going to be looking at Disney Plus right now, that they have distribution rights to all around the world. because it's theirs. Very similar to what Netflix does with all the Netflix originals. There's no limit on saying we can only show this show in the UK. We can't show it in America, things like that.
Well, I have to say, I have definitely seen them make some changes over the last couple of years. Like my son, he's really into a Disney movie called Moana. Not so much now, but about a year ago he was. And I think it was last January that got pulled off of Netflix. So it's an indication that Disney was getting their ducks in a row. And I have so often seen American services come up to Canada and just be a shell of what they are in the States. Like whether it was Netflix or Amazon or any of these other ones, even, things like Spotify when it first came in, they just pale in comparison to what the US offers. And I really hope that I'm not in that situation.
So here's the difference. Disney has been preparing from day one to be in all of these markets. This was not, we're going to launch in the US first and then we're going to go everywhere else. Disney's plan is we're going global because we want everyone's money. I honestly think that's what it's coming down to. And Bob Iger, who is the president CEO of Disney, has said that Disney Plus is arguably the biggest thing he will have been involved with in his tenure at Disney. Remember, this is the same guy that purchased Lucasfilm and Marvel Comics and things like that. So he's been involved in some big acquisitions and big projects at Disney. And he's out there saying Disney Plus is the biggest thing we're going to do. So there's a lot of firepower behind it, and they're going to do everything they can to ensure that all of their content is on there. It's just a matter of probably letting a few deals expire.
I hope so. I really do. Cody, are you at all interested in Disney Plus?
No.
No, you're not. Hey, is it just you're not into any of the content, or you don't like to pay for things, or what?
A little bit of both, a little bit of everything. Marvel's awesome, but my wife just does not care. And our current home setup just doesn't really lend itself to me watching a superhero TV show, right? Like I watched Daredevil. I watched that show almost exclusively on the train on my commute to and from work, which I also did with Jessica Jones. And by the way, got a little awkward when, she was hooking up and with that other superhero dude. Who was that? Oh my God, Luke Cage, right? Wow, it's been a while, right? So they're having sex scenes, them standing there on the train surrounded by people packed in. It's like, this is weird. I don't like this. And I'm guessing there probably won't be as many gratuitous sex scenes in the Disney Plus service, but there's just, my lifestyle doesn't really lend itself to a lot of the stuff that I would go to Disney Plus for right now. And I'm just not, I don't have kids yet, so that's not. I see it as three-pronged: kids, Marvel stuff, and then Star Wars. And I'm totally not a Star Wars guy. After the last movie. Sorry. For the longest time, my only Achilles heel in my nerdness was Lord of the Rings, which I had never gotten into in high school or anything. And then I did a book club last year and read all the books, and they're so good. Oh my God, I love the books. Totally obsessed now. Now my nerd Achilles heel is I'm over Star Wars. I don't need any more Star Wars. I like the old Star Wars.
Okay, fair enough.
That guy.
I want to say that I think for me personally, I will probably find enough use because of the original content that I like with the kid factor. I think I probably will be willing to pay for it, but I don't know that I'm going to be willing to pay for it on an annual basis, or it will be a here and there subscription thing. I'm not sure. I haven't made that decision yet.
All I know is my wife looked at the lineup of shows coming up and said, we're getting this, right? And I said, whatever you say, dear, we're getting it.
Nice. That's awesome.
Well, before we go into the segment, I just need to not let something sit there untouched. And it's the fact that, Cody, I can guarantee you watching sex scenes on a Chicago train was one of the least weird things going on a Chicago train. I guarantee there was weirder things.
I agree. You are 100% right. Yes. In fact, I was doing it partly to escape from the weird things going on around me. So,
well, let's go ahead and move on to the featured segment. Here we go. For those those of you watching the video side of things, you probably are looking at our sidebar and you're seeing Steven's Geeky Stuff segment. Well, what you don't know is that the two guests here today don't actually know what's going on with the Steven's Geeky Stuff segment. I had entirely planned a review of a product called a Habitat. We'll get to that in a couple of weeks. But while I was mowing the lawn listening to the Curiosity Daily this past weekend, I thought of something that we could possibly do here today, which is unusual for the GonnaGeek.com show, but I'm going to make it geeky because there were a few different GonnaGeekers involved in this. Now, during the show, we've been gently ribbing Cody Gough about podcast awards, right? We mentioned we have awards sitting on my backdrop. He allegedly has an award for a podcast award in his living room, allegedly.
You forgot the air quotes.
Air quote. But we can all agree that these awards, all of them, pale in comparison to a championship belt. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it the $1 million belt?
So if you didn't know this, the Cody Gough and the Chris Farrell are both big pro wrestling fans. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Off and on.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yes.
Yeah, off and on. Yes, off and on, I would say yes. Yeah, but mostly on.
So I think this is a perfect opportunity to bring a little pro wrestling into the GonnaGeek.com show. Now, the reason I wanted to do this was because Chris and Cody have actually in the past joked on here about starting a pro wrestling podcast. I know a couple different guest appearances. For sure, Cody has commented on that with Chris. And I thought, well, let's just give them that taste because maybe they'll eventually do it. Now, here's the thing. No. I've never, ever, ever been into pro wrestling. This is just not something that I've found particularly up my alley. And so I felt a little ill-equipped to do a version of Geek Wars that centered around pro wrestling trivia. So I brought in a ringer, and although we couldn't have the ringer on this week, I had a ringer from the GonnaGeek Network write up some questions, record said questions and said answers, and we're going to go ahead and do a pro wrestling version of Geek Wars. How do you guys feel about this here?
I'm going to get beat so hard.
Oh, you assume I'm so much of a bigger geek, but I don't know. We'll see.
Now, again, I have not thought of these questions. I have not had any part in them, but I will keep track as we go through and see who is the bigger wrestling geek. And we all know the individual who has thought of these questions. And I'm sure if you both fail, they will completely make fun of both of you. So let's find out who exactly I had come in to do these questions. And as a reminder, I am going to go ahead and play a question, and the first person to ring in gets to answer said question. Okay? Now, we're going to do it a little straightforward because of the fact that the answers are also pre-recorded. You either get a chance to answer or you don't. So if you get the question and you answer, we're going to go ahead and leave that question there. If you get it wrong, we're done that question. If you get the question and you answer, and you don't answer for whatever no reason, we'll turn it over to the other person. Does that make sense?
Fair.
Yep.
We're good.
All right. So let's go ahead and go to question number 1, and we'll see who it is that's going to be taking us through the special version of Geek Wars.
Question number 1. Who won their debut WCW match against Hulk Hogan? Bonus, name the pay-per-view.
So do you have the question? Did you get the question?
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
All right.
Yeah.
And by the way, for those of you who aren't familiar, that is the wonderful Anthony Bachman from All Things Good and Nerdy, fellow GonnaGeek Network member. So
spoiler alert, I didn't watch WCW very much. I was a WWF fan.
Would either of you care to answer that question?
Oh,
is there a penalty for being wrong?
There's no penalty for being wrong, no. But you have to, remember, you have to ring in. No.
Ooh, do I want Chris to take the first shot at this, or do I want to, even though I have zero idea who it is?
All right, Chris Farrell, what is it?
Who is Bret the Hitman Hart?
And remember, once it's answered, it's answered. The question's dead, unless of course you choose not to answer. So the question is dead.
I can jump in though, right? I don't get to jump in.
You can't jump in. No, you can't jump in because we have Anthony's answers, which are pre-recorded. So,
all right.
Yeah,
I misunderstood the very simply explained rules that were very obvious that I somehow still missed.
I've got the answers. We'll go back to the old way. We'll go ahead and make this an awkward segment. I will tell you whether or not you're wrong. If you're wrong, you will go ahead and the other person has a chance to answer. Okay, so you're wrong. So it's not Bret the Hitman Hart. Okay, so Cody, go ahead. Would you like to answer?
Goldberg.
You're also wrong. Let's go ahead and hear what it is.
The answer was at the time he was billed as the Giant, the son of Andre the Giant, also known as Paul White, currently known as The Big Show. The pay-per-view was Halloween Havoc.
So you guys both failed the first question. Way to go. Way to go, champs.
I
It's
knew
WCW,
that one.
man. It's my weakness.
Let's go to question 2.
Question 2. What was Coco Beware's finisher? Bonus points before and after a feud with Bobby Heenan.
All right, so question 2. Do either of you have the answer to that?
Ding, ding, ding.
Cody Gough, what is your answer?
Was it the Brain Buster?
Answer. The Brainbuster became known as the Weasel Buster.
There you go.
Nice.
So Cody Gough gets on with 1. Way to go, Cody. Cody is at 1. Let's go to
That's a
question
total guess.
number 3.
Question 3. What does JYD stand for?
So that was, what does JYD stand for? What does JYD stand for?
Chris,
What is it?
Junkyard Dog.
Answer. Junkyard Dog.
There you go. Tied up. Wow. I thought
Coming back. Coming back.
I'm so glad you're both on the board. I was so worried for both of you. So worried.
I was too.
Question 4. What's at the corner of Know Your Role Boulevard and Jabroni Drive?
Again.
Oh, I know. Ding, ding, ding.
Chris,
Cody, what was it?
It's me?
Yep.
It's the SmackDown Hotel.
yep.
Answer. The SmackDown Hotel.
So Cody
Chris
is
knew
at
that.
2. Cody's at 2
Damn it.
and Chris is at
Damn
1. Next question up right now.
Question 5. To end their career as team partners, who kicked who through the barbershop window? Bonus points
Chris.
with what move?
All right, Chris Farrell.
Shawn Michaels kicked Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window with the super kick. Sweet chin music, technically.
Answer. Shawn Michaels kicked Marty Jannetty with the super kick, aka sweet chin music, through the barbershop window to end the Rockers.
There you go. So there you got 2 for that one. That's 2 for he took the lead on that question. Very, very impressed. Cody, you got to ring in faster. I know you knew it.
Coming for you.
I say my own name to ring in. Got to remember that. I keep raising my hand.
Which
What am
for
I
the
doing?
audio listener, his hands are literally cropped off on the frame right now.
Question 6. What was the tag team name of Brian Pillman and stunning Steve Austin?
Ooh.
Oh, would you like the question one more time?
Go for
I am
it.
Pillman.
Question 6. What was the tag team name of Brian Pillman and stunning Steve Austin?
Going once. Going twice.
No
Gone.
Answer. The Hollywood Blondes.
I knew it was something blonde.
Damn it.
I knew it was something blonde.
Should have known that.
Question
Steve Austin used to have long blonde hair.
number 7.
Number 7. Name the Natural Disasters tag team members. Bonus. Who was their manager?
Oh, I only know one of them. I
So
think.
again, this was Name the Natural Disasters tag team members. Bonus, who was their manager?
I have never heard of the natural disasters.
I only know of one of them.
Don't want to go. I'll give you a half point.
Chris Earthquake, also known as John Tenta, I believe was his real name.
Answer. Earthquake and Typhoon. managed by Jimmy Mouth of the South Hart.
Jimmy Hart managed that?
Man, these are all old school questions, which is
I know,
not
right?
my forte.
I'm a child of the Attitude Era.
I threw it out to Anthony, and so you can go ahead and blame him because I legitimately knew nothing.
This is where I'm reminded that Anthony's like 8 or 9 years older than me. So he grew up in a different era of wrestling.
All right, so the next question here is...
Question 8. Name 2 women that have competed in the Battle Royale at the Royal Rumble. Bonus, name the wrestler that competed in both the male and female Battle Royales on the same night.
Cody.
All right, Cody, what do you got here?
The wrestler who competed in the male and female ones was... Oh my God, I'm drawing a... Wait. No, what is her name? She's the...
I know the answer.
She's the bigger girl that she's the bigger girl. It's not Alexa Bliss. It's not Bailey or Natalia. She's the
5, 4.
No, another
3.
girl's Beth Phoenix. Beth Phoenix is another one, and China has also competed, but I can't remember the name of the larger woman. What is wrong with me? Oh shit, I see her all the time.
All right, so Cody, before we update the counter here, so he got 2. He just said 2 of them. So that puts Cody up to 4. Chris Farrell, would you like to go ahead and try to scoop up some points there?
Nia Jax.
Oh my God. No.
So that puts Chris, because he gets 2 for that. And that's going to be 5.5 for Chris, 4 for Cody, and there's 1 still laying on the floor. Still 1 laying on the floor. If someone wants
Charlotte Flair.
Sorry, what was that you guys talked
China.
over? You said China and Beth Phoenix.
You said China already.
Yeah.
I'll say Charlotte Flair.
Let's go to the answer.
Possible answers are China, Beth Phoenix, Karma, and the bonus answer is Nia Jax, who competed in both during the same event.
So Karma was the one that was left there.
Yeah.
Can't believe that.
Next question.
Question 9. Who entered one Royal Rumble as 3 separate characters? Bonus,
Cody.
Name the character.
Chris. Damn it. Cody. Damn it.
All right, Cody, go ahead.
Mick Foley entered as Cactus Jack, Mankind, and Dude Love.
Yeah, he's right.
Answer, Mick Foley as Mankind, Dude Love, and Cactus Jack.
Wow, way to go. So
That one hurt.
yeah, that's gonna put you in the lead there because you get 4 for that. No, you get
4-point question.
You get 3 for that. 3 for that. That's right. Because you get 4. You get 4 because you listed the 3 characters plus the actual name. So yeah, you get 4 for that. So that puts you at what does that put you at?
8.
8. Yeah, I lost track here. I didn't save the file. And the last one that we've got here.
Question number 10. What is Shawn Michaels' real name? Bonus, who sings his theme song and can you sing it? And the
Chris.
answer must be sung.
Chris,
It's
go ahead.
Michael Hickenbottom, and it's sung by Shawn Michaels himself.
Are you going to sing it?
I kind of remember how it goes.
You're not going to sing it.
I can
I
sing it.
can't. That's fair use. I'm not allowed to.
You know what? We'll go ahead and confirm it. I'll mute it.
Because I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy.
I don't.
Toy.
I don't even know. This is what I have.
Answer, Michael Shawn Hickenbottom. He sings his own theme song, and then I'll let you guys go on with the singing part.
So Cody, did he sing it? I genuinely don't know. Did he sing it?
He knew the chorus.
Just a sexy boy.
The whole lyrics are I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy. I've got the looks, the drive, the girl's wild.
You got 3 points for that. 3 points for that. 1 for singing it. 1 for whatever the other part of the bonus was, and there was also the actual name. So there you go. You
I
pulled
demand
ahead.
Cody gets half a point for singing with me.
Okay, fine.
I think I get half a point for knowing the actual verses. I think I call that a tie.
There you go. So
It's
you
a
guys
tie.
tied. So technically speaking, Chris Farrell was at 8.5. Cody was at 8, but we threw we gave Coney a bonus point here. And so it is 8.5 apiece, and not a bad showing for a 10-part version of Geek Wars. And I will
Where
leave
one
it.
question's worth 4 points.
I will leave it to Anthony Bachman to ridicule. You can go ahead, Anthony, and send it on in. Send me an audio clip. I'll make sure to play it. We got a special Gonna Geek 301 coming up next week. So go ahead and send that to me. Well done, you guys. I am so glad that you were able to at least score on this. I was worried at the beginning there. And also thank you, special thank you to Anthony Bachman for coming on here. A little inside baseball here. I would have loved to have had Anthony actually come and guest this, but I'm still fighting some tech issues, and I've been sort of slowly building things back up, and I'm just not yet at that capability to have had him on this week. So I would have loved to have had him, but technically, from a technical perspective, I just couldn't have him. So thank you very much, Anthony Bachman. And if you want to hear him ridicule Chris every week, check that out on Sundays on the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast, which is Sundays at 8 a.m. Pacific. That's, I don't know, some other time Eastern, I think 11.
That is correct, sir. That is correct.
Cody, Gough, before we go, is there anything else that you would like to plug or promote? I know we talked about Curiosity Daily at the beginning, but I know there's other things that you sometimes want to talk about. Anything else?
Not really, no. It's kind of Curiosity Daily. That's the way to go. If you've got an Amazon Alexa smart speaker. Oh wait, I'm not supposed to say that word. You guys actually censor it on this show, but I don't mind.
Amazon Voice Services.
If you've got the flash briefing news update, Curiosity Daily can be added to that. It's a little longer than most flash briefing updates, but I don't know, it's entertaining and you will learn something. So that's kind of fun. And that's all I do. I mean, check out Game Life Balance whenever John decides to actually show up for an episode on a Saturday, and we'll get some more stuff out on that. No, it's great. No, you can only do so many podcasts in a week. I've just been just buried right now, lately. One other let me plug one thing that's not actually mine that your audience I think might enjoy a lot. There's a book called Because Internet: Understanding the New Rules of Language by Gretchen McCulloch. We're actually running a multi-part interview series with Gretchen on Curiosity Daily over the next few weeks. But it's basically a linguist wrote about internet speak, and it's really interesting and cool. And I am obsessed with language, and I find it really interesting. Podcaster, big surprise, but it explains the origins of stuff like boomer speak and the way different emoji look around the world. How certain emoji in parts of Asia emphasize the eyes, whereas in the U.S. it emphasizes the mouth and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just interesting and really cool. And if you're really nerdy and you spend a lot of time online and you're a geek, which should be literally anyone listening to this right now, then feel free to check it out on my show or just pick up Because Internet. It's one of the cooler books I think that I've been exposed to lately, and it's very geek. It's so geek. You guys are such geeks.
Can I get it digitally on a Kindle?
Probably, I think so. Yeah, I was actually holding up the advanced uncorrected proof that I got before interviewing her. But yes, it is definitely available electronically if you'd like to check it out.
Well, that's awesome. It's always great to have things like that because we do have a pretty geeky audience that likes those sort of things. So I appreciate you mentioning that. And also, apparently, I don't know how to speak. That's what I'm frequently told. So maybe I can learn how to speak through that book.
Maybe.
Chris Farrell, is there anything that you would like to plug or promote?
Well, I don't have anything as fancy as Cody does, like an award-winning podcast and cool authors coming to talk about books. But what I do have is a reminder that, hey, we are part of the GonnaGeek Network. You probably got that with the name GonnaGeek.com show. We do stream a lot of live content on the network. So if you're watching this show live as we record it, you can scroll on down to the bottom of the page. You'll see a calendar of all of the upcoming live events. So please feel free to jump on here for any other live show, participate in their chat room, tell them that we sent you from the official GonnaGeek.com show, and just have fun with some of our other hosts on the network. We've got a bunch of different shows. No matter what your tastes are, I'm sure you can find something you'll like and come in and good-naturedly heckle them, please. Just good-naturedly.
Well, on that note, for episode 299 of the official
300.
GonnaGeek.com show. I'm Steven Jondrew saying Cody thinks it's 300. 300's next week. We're going to have a lot of fun, hopefully reminiscing in some form. Maybe.
Happy 300th episode. Thanks for having me on the 300th episode, guys.
Feral 316 says I just whooped your ass, Cody. Ooh.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or a thumbs up on YouTube. You can always join us for our live recording sessions, which stream Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of the Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next week.